Whether you're a physical therapy student or a licensed physical therapist, you're familiar with the concept that our field is gray. But if it's gray, why do so many of our treatments tend to be black and white? For example, in a gray world, we wouldn't really know why that person has back pain. Once we figure it out, we then would need to have very specific intentional exercises for that specific patient to fix this gray world that we live in. But in reality, that often doesn't happen. What tends to happen is we have that low back pain patient and we divert to our black and white treatment protocols, right? A lot of us have a low back pain protocol where a lot of exercises are chosen that are the same whether it's person X, Y, or Z with low back pain. So in this video, I want to talk about 3 concepts that we can do in our field to help raise our movement standards as physical therapists. Strategy number 1 to raising our standards starts by comprehending our patient's starting position. Essentially, what I'm saying is comprehending our assessments. Now, I know that might seem like an easy thing that we do on a routine basis, but what I've found is that we know it's that gray world, but we revert to black and white. What I mean is that as a patient comes in, they tell us their complaint, and then we just try to fix that complaint. This is living in a 2-dimensional kind of black and white world, when in reality, it's a little bit more complex than that. So when we're looking and going through our assessments, we need to not get caught up in that 2-dimensional tunnel vision symptoms-based approach. Instead, we need to have that 3-dimensional lens on. And when they're talking about that complaint, we recognize that, but understand that's not the source of the problem. So I think a lot of us divert to that black and white and get caught up in that complaint or the symptom during the assessment, when in actuality, that's not what we need to be focusing on, right? It's a gray world. We understand that. We need to take that concept, embrace it, because what we need to do is understand and identify what is the source of the problem and how am I going to fix this? How am I going to fix this dysfunctional movement pattern for my patient so they can start to get out of pain? Step number 2 to raising our standards is improving movement variability. Now again, this might be something that you're already familiar with, but if you don't have step number 1 that we talked about, then it's hard to go through step 2. What I mean is that the assessment that you do should be your guide to your exercise prescription. However, like I said in the beginning, a lot of us understand it's that gray world, but divert to black and white. For that patient with low back pain, we just give them the same exercises that we just gave the last 5 low back pain patients. It's not that easy. It's not that black and white. So I'm challenging you to raise your standards. Really get confident with that assessment. So once you have that assessment findings, you then know exactly what to do. For example, if someone has a lack of internal rotation, we want to start to prescribe them exercises that has a neutral shin angle. This is where we bias more of a internally rotated position through the pelvis. Now, if you're not familiar with that concept, that's okay. I want to help you get better at that so you can get better results with your patients. So what I'll do is I will leave the Performance Redefined course in the link below where you can join, go through this at your own pace, and raise your standards as it relates to your assessments and exercise prescriptions so you can continue to get back in this gray world, but do it in a confident manner. The third and final strategy to raising our standards is measure improvement. What does this mean? This means reassessing, right? Test, do something, reassess, right? The difference is we know it's a gray world. We know that we're not always going to get the outcome that we want, but we're not guessing through the gray world. And what does that mean? That means that we reassess to see if what we just provided was the best solution. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. If it is, great, we're on the right track. If it's not, great. We can start to hone in on what is going to be the best thing for that patient. But the big picture is that we're not guessing along through our entire treatment process. We are always understanding what is going on from a starting position. How is that person starting? Then we try to improve their movement variability through exercise, and then we reassess, was that exercise the best for that patient? And to me, I think this is the easiest way to navigate through a gray world. Again, getting out of that false reality that we understand it's gray, but we go to a black and white treatment protocol, but embracing the gray, but doing it in a confident way that still gets your patients results.